Hi, guys. Welcome to Drama in Session with Carina
and Heidi.
And today we are so excited to have our very first guest on the podcast. Everyone, welcome Esther the lawyer. That's her Instagram name. Hi, Esther.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys. This is awesome.
Of course, we're so excited to have you here. So tell us, Esther, what is it that you do? I know that you're a fellow Latina.
Yeah, Latina lawyer. I exclusively focus on personal injury and employment law. We actually just announced our employment section. Really excited about that. But yeah, for the last 5 years, 4.5 years, my firm has been exclusively personal injury.
Oh, wow. So I bet that you have a lot of drama stories, like people walking into courtroom in full on casts.
All sorts of drama. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it all. Yeah.
I bet that it gets a little tricky trying to navigate the people that are really injured and the people that are not, and they're just trying to play the part.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we like to focus on serious injury cases or like talk about drama, like the one that we just signed yesterday. The road rage turned into a car accident. Like we see it all.
Well, tell us a little bit about that one. What happened?
Yeah, I know. We just got the video. It happened, I think, over the weekend. A lady was like throwing stuff at the car next to them and like yelling and like making all sorts of commotion. And then she loses control of her car and like swerves, hits him. They both spin out and then she takes off.
Oh, so was the road rage against him?
It was against him.
Yeah. Wow.
I know. And in the video, he's just like driving in his car, like minding his business.
So how was this all recorded?
Tesla. Yeah. You know, those Tesla cars have like 360 cameras, which is really, it's nice for sure.
So sometimes when I'm in the court parking lot and I do my day in the lives, just background guys behind the scenes, I stick my phone on like FARs and I'm like, the Teslas around me are probably like reporting and me just sticking my phone on cars to get out of my vehicle, to pack my bag, to roll it down, and then I come back for my phone.
That is so funny. I
always forget that there's cameras literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. I mean, I don't know why we can't just be like, hey, can I get the footage of me walking through the parking lot for my day in the life? I saw your Tesla.
Yeah. Can you send me the pic?
Like, can you send it to me? Well, when it comes to, accidents, I think that it's very hard on the people that are going through that because it literally is draining on their life. Like family law.
It's life-changing. I mean, the life-changing injuries that, are the catastrophic injuries are really, really sad. But even just the inconvenience of being in a car accident, right? We live in Southern California. People need their cars. Like having your car in a, mechanic shop or at a garage for 2 months is really, really stressful. So, we help them with that as well. Lots of drama for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw our posts or anything, but last time we were recording, we were leaving the parking lot of the where we record our podcast. And then Heidi's car just decided to stop in the middle of the intersection, just there.
It was hilarious. I never drive her in my car, but that day she's like, I don't have gas, we're late, Jay's gonna kill us. So then I was like, just get in my car. And yeah, we came, filmed, walked out, and then it just stopped working. So my car is in a shop right now, but it was funny because we were just making content while we were waiting for the tow.
Literally, she just I thought she turned her car off. It's off, and she's just like, what happened? And then she grabs her phone, and I'm thinking like she's Googling it, and then she puts her phone down. She starts eating chips. I'm like, we're in the middle of an intersection, and she's like, well, my car doesn't work. I'm gonna give it a little bit of time. Okay.
And then every guy that was walking by, she was just like putting the lock on my doors.
People were upset though. I could see where the road rage comes in because there were people flipping us off. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Intentionally. Yeah. Like I'm intentionally parked here.
In a middle intersection, like, hey. And I'm like, Heidi, why is that person waving at us? And she's like, they're flipping us off. I think it was a wave. I'm like, do you think they know us from our podcast?
And then when we were in the tow, she was laughing because the guy was like, oh, so what were you guys doing here? And we're like, oh, we were filming a podcast. And he's like, oh, so you guys are like influencers? And we're like, yeah, we're on live right now. Everybody's watching. Kind of like, don't kidnap us.
But the way that because he spoke Spanish, so she's like, somos influencers. I was dying. I was like, oh, man. And this guy was like, okay, do not kill these.
Are you sure it's hitting us or we need to go?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, I think that everybody has experienced some type of issue like that where you don't have your vehicle and it's like, how do you get to work? How do you drive your kids to school?
Yeah, no, it's really stressful. And then like dealing with doctor appointments to top it all off, going to see like pain management doctors and physical therapists and chiropractors. Like yeah, it's stressful.
So I don't know much, but tell me about employment law. How does that work? I mean, is that like my boss hit on me and I kind of slept with him a couple of times, but now I'm mad kind of employment law? Or like, what did that do?
We do cover, sexual harassment, wrongful termination, discrimination. And I think employment law for me is a little personal because something like that happened to me when I was 18. I was working at a Sizzler. I was a hostess, right? And I was in law or I knew I wanted to go to law school, but I was in college, just trying to make some money on the side. And I just casually told my manager at the time, I was like, yeah, I'm working here. I'm really hoping I can like work my way up to a waitress. Cause the waiters at the time were like walking away with like 300 bucks on the weekend in tips. I was like, that's great for, a college student. So in my head, I'm like, I'm going to work my way up to be a server. And then like 5 or 6 months in, I realized I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. No matter how hard I work, I'm not gonna be a server because those servers have been there for like 10 plus years. Like that's their career, right? And none of them are gonna leave. And I realized, so I was like, maybe this isn't for me. And around that time is when I decided to join the debate team at college, Cal State Fullerton, go Trojans. Yeah, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna put all my eggs in that basket, focus on debate, and I put my 2 weeks notice in at Sizzlers. It was so funny. I was like, yeah, give me my 2 weeks notice. I'm going to focus on school. And the manager at the time, he knew in part it's because like I wasn't going to end up being a server or anything. So he's like, hey, come with me to Vegas for the weekend and we'll talk about you becoming a server. Just like quid pro quo sexual harassment. And I freaked out. And he sent that like via text, right? So he texted me. He's like, come with me to Vegas for the weekend and I'll make you a server. And I was with my husband, my boyfriend at the time, right? And I got that message and I freaked out. I was like, "Oh, crap, like what did I do?" Of course, I immediately victim blame. I'm like, what did I do for him to think that was okay? I'm like, I don't want my boyfriend to see this and think that I was like doing something or messing with him. So I delete it. Don't tell anybody for years that even happened. And then I was working as an associate at a firm and I just casually told the employment attorney there and he turned red. He's like, that was like the most slam dunk, sexual harassment case. And he's like, and you did nothing? I was like, no. He's like, that could have been $300,000. Like easy.
I'm like, you could have paid law school. You're calling your phone bill. I need this tax recovered.
I know. I think that all the time. Like my, student loan bill comes in. I was like, damn it.
Oh man, yeah, 300,000 right there.
No. He's like, yeah, he's like, that was like the easiest case because it came right from his number. He texted me unprovoked, like, and it's crazy.
And I think it's interesting the way that you said, like, I was self-blaming, right? Because I think a lot of people do that. Like, what did I do? Did I flirt with him? Did he get the wrong impression? That obviously should never be the go-to, but it is.
Yeah.
And then the fact
Unfortunately,
you are, such a badass woman. And then in the moment, you're like, I can't show this to anybody. I can't talk about it.
I was 18. Like, it was like one of my first jobs, right? I was like, oh my God, like, he must have thought I was flirting with him. I absolutely wasn't. His kid was like maybe 2 years younger than me. Like, whoa, yeah. So he's like an older dude. And I look back and I'm like, I don't want girls to feel that way or like victim blame, themselves and actually seek legal remedies that they're entitled to. Like, I didn't know I was entitled to that at the time. I was 18. I was like a sophomore in college.
I was just thinking that, like, the awareness, how would you have known?
Exactly. So I think I also want to like use my platform and like Esther the Lawyer 2.0 to bring awareness to that. Like, hey, this is not acceptable. This is not okay. And you do have rights, after something like this happens.
Yeah, because I don't think a lot of people are aware of the circumstances surrounding employment law and how it really works. Because, I mean, I'm a whole lawyer and I didn't know, right? That happens. I know that we had a case once where our client's husband was working at a bar and he got in trouble, I guess, by the owners because they found out that he was calling the waitresses that were applying and pretty much saying like, hey, if you hook up with me or if we go on dates or whatever, you're going to get the waitress job. Well, when these ladies didn't get the job and they would call the establishment to be like, hey, well, I, went on a date with this guy. How come I didn't get the job? Yeah.
That is so.
I don't know if anybody has actually filed a claim, but
Women are scared. Women are scared. And like, again, I blame myself. A lot of people blame the victim too. They're like, oh, it's her. What did she do? And I really think we need to change the narrative on that. Undocumented women are terrified to like bring this stuff up. A lot of the time, like, their legal status, they're like, oh, I don't want to, you know, start a civil case and then potentially get deported. It's just really sad.
well, and I think I don't know too much about immigration law either, and I don't know if you do, but I think that could tie into them possibly getting citizenship because they're a victim of a crime, which a lot of people don't know about. And it should be an incentive for people to say like, hey, look, I've been victimized. This shouldn't have happened to me. I am going to make sure that this never happens to anybody else, and I'm going to file a claim, and then in hopes that I can also become a citizen or whatever.
Yeah, just some kind of pathway. Yeah.
In our field as well with domestic violence, a lot of clients that we have that finally come to the office and they tell us their stories and they're like, I didn't even realize that for so many years I was a victim of domestic violence because they didn't know any better.
Yeah, sometimes it's monetary, it's emotional. It doesn't have to always be physical, but like they're all bad.
Yeah. And then a lot of them don't realize that they live through the threat of like, oh, well, you're nothing. I can get you deported at any point. And then they'll be physically assaulted throughout their whole relationship. And at the end, I'm like, okay, you need to go talk to an immigration lawyer because this sounds like something that you can fight or you can use.
And it's amazing that you bring that up because a lot of other lawyers don't. It's like we don't practice immigration, right? But it's like we should know bare minimum.
Yeah,
Like, so I
absolutely.
think you have another case here. Yeah.
And I always say that if you get a lawyer, it's really important to have somebody that's not like a specialist in that field, but more than likely that's the most that they do in their cases, right? Because I know that a lot of lawyers practice everything. It's jack of all trades, master of none. But I think that I try to understand different areas of law so that if something does come up, it triggers like, oh, hey, I don't know much about it, but here, contact this person or look into it. And sometimes that's all like I say, look into it because
that's great. That's a lot better than ignoring it. Like, see the person as a whole. Like, what other legal issues are they currently dealing with? Like I've seen this kind of crossover between, personal injury and employment. Like, they get injured, they can, have workplace restrictions, and then they get fired, they get discriminated against, the employer doesn't want to keep them around. It's like, that's another case. Or if it's like a work comp case, they were working at the time, they were under course and scope, they got injured by a third party. I'm like, you have two remedies here. You have personal injury and you have like work comp, right? So it's just letting people know the other cases that they have because they don't know.
And a lot of times I would think that people in certain situations don't want to move forward or file a claim because they're thinking, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to continue to feed my family? What am I supposed to do? So sometimes they live through the pain.
Yeah, I mean, I see it happen all the time, and I mean, I get it, right? Like we have to feed our kids, and we have to pay the bills and put food on the table. So I understand that side, but I always also tell people it's like we only have one body. We have to take care of our body. I always like to use like this metaphor that our bodies are like cars. Like the light turns on the dash, like your back hurts or you're getting like shoulder pain, you can't raise your hand. Like that's a light on the dashboard, and if you ignore it, it's only going to get worse. And eventually it'll lead to you breaking down like a car. But a car you can always replace, your body you can't. So
that's so true. I don't even know what kind of car I would be. I'm like, I would be like a limited edition Force.
Love that. Mercedes.
Kind of car would you be?
I have no idea. A Bronco? Just kidding.
A
Jeep.
Okay.
A Jeep?
Is it a Jeep? Do you have a lemon?
I have a Mercedes, but I was telling her that I want a bigger car this time around now that I'm in the situation because I feel like my friend group, my family, we're always doing road trips or going snowboarding. So I feel like
And then plus, mom life might be around the corner in the next few years.
No.
Yeah. So I try to tell her stuff like that. She's like, what? I can't even think about stuff like that.
Well, I have my little nephew's car seat in all my cars.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you have some exposure. See, it's so funny. I always say I don't want a third kid because I don't want a 3-row car.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I was like, "Oh, I'll stick to 2 because I don't want the 3rd row."
Yeah, the third row is hard. We drive a Range Rover, and our previous Range Rover had that third row seat, but it's not an actual third row. Like you're very in
bench,
there. Like you
yeah.
have to get an actual like Yukon or something that
Yeah.
has that third row.
Yeah.
And
And in LA, I'm like, I don't want to drive that thing around.
We do have a Ford Expedition that has a third row, and at the time it seemed like a good idea because there's like 10 of us in my household. But then for the daily from my mom, she's like, "Why did you guys convince me to get this?" But then when we go on road trips and all that,
It's great,
yeah,
right?
we all
Yeah.
fit instead of multiple cars on a trip.
You know, I'll rent one for the road trip.
Oh,
How
that's
about that?
true.
And you put less miles on your car.
That's so true.
oh wow, that's
You know what? I'm gonna have to make
Look
a
into
cause and exchange that.
Reconsider.
maybe there should be something where you can like have like a monthly plan to be able to rent cars. Like that would be so awesome. Like people that do travel or do things like that. Yeah, I don't know. Next business idea. Well, we do have some fun questions for you. We wanted to get to know you a little bit.
Yes. And for you too, Karina. So for free. Somebody asked, as first gen Latinas, what are some of the unique challenges you faced in law school and early in your careers?
Go ahead.
Ooh, this is so tough. This is a tough one. You know, for a very long time, I just wanted to blend in, wear the boring suits. I went years without wearing hoop earrings because I was like, oh, Latinas and hoop earrings, like, I don't want to be associated with that. Like, I want to be taken professional, like, or taken seriously, right? So I kind of toned it down for a long time. I toned down in law school. I toned down as like a first year associate. And even starting my firm, I was like, let's go with like safe colors, like blues and the blacks and like, black suits. And I think with Esther 2.0, I'm like, let's break that mold. Like I am who I am. I know who I am. And I think it's going to attract the people that I want to serve. Right. And like make it easier for them to come to me and make me make me look more approachable. So I finally broke free of that mold and I incorporated a bunch of more colors in our rebrand and, playing around with my hoops and, being more of who I actually am. So
I love your rebrand content.
Yeah, it's just so unique and it just out there. It's awesome. And I could see how people would gravitate towards you because they're like, hey, I don't see people like this. And I think that was one of the reasons why we initially thought about inviting you to the podcast because you said something during lunch that I'm like, wait a minute, I say that. When going through law school, people didn't look like me. Lawyers didn't look like me. And I was always like, okay, am I going to even be able to be a lawyer if I don't look like that?
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you said that now you decided that, this is not for me. I'm going to be who I am. And that's a good way of, showing people that it's never too late to decide that you want to be you. Even if you haven't been or you've been trying to fit in at any point in time, you can decide, well, I want to be me.
Yeah.
I think I was the opposite at law school. I think I was like, well, I'm going to wear what I want to wear. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And if I become a lawyer, I become a lawyer. And if I don't, I don't. I'll just, yeah. I think I had kids in law school and I was.
which is so crazy. Like my hat goes off to you. And I always tell women that are mothers that are like hesitant to go to law school, I'm like, do it. Because all the top performing students that I went to law school with were mothers because they don't have time to mess around. Like they're strict with their schedule. It's like I have the babies here, I have class, I have to study, I have to put the baby down and then I have 2 more hours to get, my reading done or whatever. And all 3 years, it was the mothers that were always crushing it and on top of, grades. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with you. I would say do it. It was not easy. A lot of the times I would wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, I fell asleep. And I'd start crying like I fell asleep reading again. But looking back, I think that it was just a phase in my life and it's such a short period of time. And for someone
really
to
is.
say, I can't go to law school now because I have kids or I can't go to medical school, I don't think that that's realistic, because you can and you should, because one day you're going to look back and think, I should have just went. I should have just done it when I did it. And it's hard for people to see it now, but later on they will be able to see it.
Yeah. And for me now as a mom, I wasn't a mom until recently, 2 years ago. But for me, it's like I want to live my full authentic self and, be that badass, Latina law firm owner. And I want to chase my dreams because I want to show my girls that it's worthwhile to chase your dreams, right? Yeah, we get the mom guilt here and there, but I'm like, no, I want them to see that I love what I do, right? So in the morning, I tell my girls, I'm like, mommy gets to go to work, not I have to go to work, right? Mommy gets to do this, like, yay. And they're like, bye. They blow me kisses. And then they're excited to see me when I come home. I want that for them too. I don't want them to like make themselves small to fit into places, like be your full self and chase your dreams. Like, that's me.
And I think in the legal field, it's hard to understand where you fit in, because I don't think that the misconception is that we're all these white-haired older men with the funny shoes. You see all those knees. It's like, if your lawyer's wearing these shoes, you're going to jail, probably.
Yeah.
But it was like that mold. Like, who are we in this legal field? And I hear a lot of people, or I see a lot of reels that it was like, oh, I got mistaken for the law clerk or the
Oh,
paralegal.
that happened to me all the time, especially like as a first year associate. They're like, oh, are you the interpreter? Like, if I got $1 for every time they'd ask me if I was the interpreter. I'm like, no, I got the interpreter. I got if I was the deponent, the defendant. I'm like, nope, I'm the plaintiff's attorney. I'm gonna be running the show, actually.
Oh, wow. I don't know if that ever happened to me. Maybe because I get there and I'm like, I'm a lawyer. I don't get stand over today. Here's my card. Have you seen my Twilight? And everyone's like so startled by me, like, because, and I don't know, maybe it's like a coping mechanism because I'm a small person. So for me, I'm like, well, I need to be bigger. I need to make sure that people know I'm here, because I don't want to be overlooked, and I don't want people to think something of me that's not. And a lot
Take
of
control of your own narrative
Yeah.
before they do.
Yeah. And a lot of the time people may not like me because I'm the loud one that goes like, oh no, here's my card. Like, don't even start to ask me if I'm anybody else or if I work downstairs or whatever. But I think that trying to be somebody else is harder than being yourself. And I don't think that people realize that,
It's
because
true.
I'm sure you had to think about what to wear every single time
Yeah.
you went to go change. And now it's just like, I'm wearing this.
Yeah. No, I was just like quiet. Like, I was a toned down version of myself. And now I'm like, let the colors fly. Yeah.
I saw your post. You actually posted about that recently. And that reminds me, a little spotlight. You guys also just celebrated, both of you, anniversaries, right? It's like,
I passed the bar. Yeah. I passed the bar. It was May 23rd, 6 years ago.
Oh my God, doesn't it fly by?
It really does. It's scary, actually.
Yeah, no, I think that it came up where it was like my law school graduation picture. And I'm like, oh my God, this was 10 years ago. How was this 10 years ago? And I'm like, why don't I remember that my kids were that little? It was just a blur. It was all a
well, next question. And speaking of all that, were there any mentors or role models that played a key role?
I feel like I have more mentors and role models now. Like, I've learned to seek them out, right? People don't come to you. You have to like see someone that's doing what you want to do a few steps ahead of you and just reach out and be like, hey, like, I admire what you do, and give them their kudos, give them their flowers, and be like, are you willing to like give me advice and tips? A good mentor of mine, also Latina lawyer, Erica Contreras at Panish Shea Repulvi. She's been really, really great. Always lending a hand whenever I need it. She's been really, really nice. And then, funny enough, Bob Simon, who runs JHQ, I'm part of like JHQ. He's been really great at building a network, and like I've been able to connect with a lot of other female lawyers through that. So like learning to build your network is so important.
Yes.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that it also depends on where you want to be in your legal career, right? A lot of people think that they want to do one thing and then end up realizing, like, I'm really good at something else. And I think that's what happened to me. I was on track to being in criminal law. I
Oh, me
was,
too.
yeah, I was working at the DA's office all throughout law school. And I think that was my one and only role model there. I was assigned to a deputy, a district attorney. Her name was Karen, and I think she's retired now, but she was this petite woman, and she just like dominated the room, and she would wear this not flashy stuff, but like high designer stuff, and I'm just like, I just want to be you, and it was always so cute, and she was just always dressed to a T, and everyone respected her, and it was awesome because I don't think that I really saw that anywhere else. And when I started getting into family law, I just realized that I was good at it and I enjoyed it and I loved it. But there were no family law role models, not for me, and not many years ago.
In my space to this day, like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
hard.
there weren't. And I can honestly say that the people that I would see doing their job as a family law attorney or that I would interact with, it was more of like, that's who I don't want to be. I'm not going to be you. Like, no, I don't want to run my law firm this way. I don't want to do things this way. I want to be different. And I try to create a space where, obviously nobody wants to go to work every single day, right? And nobody's like, it's Monday, yay.
Me. I know. I'm like, toxic positivity. Sorry.
Break these motions. Let's get out discovery.
Okay, maybe not just.
Yeah, I know. Like,
That's where I draw the line.
or when the phone rings and we're like, who's calling my phone? So I think that I just wanted a firm where people felt like they were accepted. If there's something going on in their life, it's like, hey, can I leave a little earlier, or can I, come in earlier so that I can make up the time or whatever to try to figure it out. But I think that family is so important. And when I graduated law school, I worked at this law firm, and it was a entertainment law firm, and they did visas for awesome people. And it was like, these people would come to the US to perform, high-end people, and we would like do their visas. And we would even have to get visas for these people's horses because they would have like the equestrian like shows and
They're dancers.
and all this cool stuff. But the owner of the firm, he was such a jerk. And it was like, you cannot be 1 minute late. And it was like, okay, well, I'm not planning on being late. But then just by him saying that, he was like, if you're late, then we're going to have to, talk and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. But he would do stuff like on Halloween. He knew I had 2 little kids at home. And he'd be like, oh, I need you to stay until 8 because we have something due. And I was like, okay, it's Halloween. But then he would leave to go with his kids.
Oh,
And I'm
that
like,
is
this
so
is
toxic.
yeah, I'm like, it would be different if like, he was there, we were there, and he had all women working for him. And it was like, I was sitting there screaming, and these ladies were just like, okay, this is part of our job. And I'm just like, nobody else is seeing this. Like, this is so bad. And,
Yeah.
I mean, that was just one example of the stuff that he would do. And I was not a fan. And I literally talk about not necessarily him, but just the way that he ran his firm all the time. When
It's just like, wait, I think you could have had a case.
yeah, right. I'm like, sign me up. No, I'm like, he was just so rude, and he was, he would make all these promises like, oh, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that and we're gonna do this, and it was like none of that ever really came true, and it was just a matter of like, oh, I'm leaving because I'm gonna go do this, and it's like, oh, I thought you said that we were gonna get to do it, and then it was, well, you guys have to stay until
It was all
8.
about me.
Yes.
Good leader.
And then it was years later, the other attorney working there, she finally reached out to me. She's like, I could see why you were like, what's going on? Do you guys like actually do this? Like, are we supposed to follow him and listen to him? Like, I'm not understanding. She's like, now I can see why you were always so confused by what was happening. And I'm like, good. I'm glad that I wasn't crazy.
No, not at all. I mean, and that's why I built my firm too, right? It's like, yes, I want to provide a service to our community, people that look like me. Like, I understand their culture, I understand their concerns and worries, but also to build a culture in the office, right?
Yes.
I have a lot of female employees, and, I don't hesitate. I'm like, just let me know that you have to go. Because, one of my employees, her daughter had softball, and she's like, can I leave an hour early on Wednesdays? I'm like, absolutely. Like, go. Like, you want to be there for that. There's nothing that's going to be detrimental within that hour that you're gone. Like, go ahead.
Yeah.
Another employee is like, oh, I need to take my mom to a doctor's appointment. I'm like, I get that, right?
Yes.
Like, aging parents, go handle what you need to handle, make up your hours when you have to, or whenever you can, and we're good. And I think it creates just a really good environment because people aren't upset and like holding a grudge, and then they come and they handle what they needed to handle. They're happy that they were able to be with their family when it mattered.
And it creates some level of trust and to be able to talk to each other and be able to say like, hey, I got this, I have this going on. It's like, oh, how was graduation or how was this or how was that? Heidi actually makes fun of me because since you said like, oh, I have my kid has soccer on Wednesdays, I'll be on the phone with opposing counsel or a client and I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta go. Actually, I have dance right now. We can talk about it tomorrow. And I hang up and Heidi's like, that person literally thinks that you are going to a dance class. And I'm like, oh. And she's like, you need to say, I have to take my child to dance. And I have dance.
Yeah.
Or I'll say like, oh, I gotta go. I'm leaving today at 4:30 because I have swim. And everyone's like, imagining me there doing the backstroke of Thursdays. And they were laughing at me and I'm like, oh, I guess it's the kids are a part of me. So I say it that way, but I can see where someone thinks that I was doing a different kind of dancing.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you have like people at the firm celebrating your kid's birthday party or family event.
Yeah, it's just about building community, honestly.
Well, and I think that it's important for me to be honest with my clients as well. Like, hey, I have to go. I have to get my kids to dance. I will call you later or I'll call you tomorrow. And well, one, I know that they're going to probably look at my social media and I don't want them to be like, I thought that you were on the phone with somebody else. Like, I think that there's so much trust
Yeah.
that you need to
Just be
build.
transparent. It's like, why hide it?
And if you have a client that's like, oh no, then you really don't need that client, in my opinion.
Yes.
I mean, everyone's situation is different. But in our firm, if you're going to give us a hard time, we probably are not the firm for you. It's just not worth it.
No.
Our interns have told us that they've actually been experiencing a difficult time finding opportunities like internships in family law firms because a lot of attorneys don't even give it the time of day, right? And then the interns we have at our office, again, sometimes we make TikToks or we're singing like stuff like trending sounds in our head. And we joke like, oh my gosh, when you leave, like, are you gonna miss us? Like, and or they'll be like, oh my god, if I go to another firm after this, like, will they be like you guys? And we're like, oh,
Likely.
yeah, I know.
Very small chance.
Or one of them works at another firm. So we're like, tell us about the other firm. Tell us about your coworkers. Are you friends with them? Are you friends with them? Tell us now. Are you are you friends with them? Like, do you hang out with them? She's like, no, they're all older. And we're like, what do you mean older? Like, how old? What is old to you?
That is so funny.
Yeah, and I think we just try to create an environment where I want people to grow and I want them to look at it like if I'm growing, you're growing. And I feel that it's the same way in the legal career, right? I don't think that anyone is competition to me. I will
Yeah.
quickly post someone's content so fast and not be like, oh, you weren't posting my stuff. And I feel like a lot of people, they look at it that way.
Tit for tat.
Yeah,
It's
or
like,
they don't want to post my content because they don't want me to have the clients. I'm like, more than likely, I have swim and I have to leave early. So if they need an appointment past 6 p.m. or 5 p.m., I'm going to send them to you anyway. So we all win.
I know there's more than enough
Oh.
business for all of us.
Yeah. Yes.
This one is specifically for personal injury, Esther. What are some of the biggest legal mistakes people make after an accident?
Oh, yeah. Tell us. Like if I'm driving and I get hit, am I supposed to be like, ow, my neck?
Well, a lot of the time people don't feel the pain immediately, right? And that doesn't mean they're faking it because the adrenaline, like they have the adrenaline pumping through them. It's a fight or flight mode. And it's just a natural response. It's our bodies protecting us. But then the next day they do feel like the pain in the neck, like, oh, I can't turn, like my neck, or like my back is really hurting, or like sometimes they don't even associate pain that they have to the accident. Like, oh, I started getting headaches, or I have like this pain going down my leg, like this sharp pain going down my leg. They don't realize it could potentially be a pinched nerve from the accident. So a big one is just immediately dismissing that you're not injured. Like really assess yourself and be honest with yourself. Another big thing is lately the police aren't coming to the accident scenes and they're refusing to write a police report because they don't want, more paperwork that they have to fill out. So oftentimes you really are stuck with the other party. So make sure that you get pictures of their license plate, pictures of their driver's license, registration if they're willing to give it to you. And then take pictures of both vehicles. A lot of the times my clients only take pictures of the damage to their car. and they're like, oh, focused on their car, but they're not taking pictures of the other vehicle, right? And sometimes like their vehicle doesn't look that damaged, or obviously these cars are built to absorb as much shock, right? And like
Yeah.
and their car might look okay, and then you look at the defendant's car and it looks like a bomb went off.
Oh, yeah.
Like their car is completely messed up, and they didn't take pictures of it, right? And I don't get those until like maybe a year later when we're in litigation. I'm like, this could have been very helpful. So always take pictures of both vehicles, and don't just zoom in. Like take pictures of where it happened if you're able to, because sometimes people are transported via ambulance, and then
Or you need to move out of the way, right? Because you're in the middle of the road,
you always move out of the way. You don't want to get into a second accident because you refuse to.
or you're there taking video and you're like,
Someone crashes again into your car. I'd seen it happen.
yeah, I've seen it happen too. And actually, about a year ago, the kids and I were coming home from the mall on a Saturday, and we were at an intersection, and we were hit like full blown from behind. And the guy was intoxicated. At first, I thought he was hurt, so I was gonna go walk over there to be like, why he's struggling to get out of his car. And then my son, my oldest, he pulls me away. He's like, Mom, I think he's drunk. And then sure enough, he starts stumbling. But it was funny that you say about the cars, because the insurance was trying to minimize our accident by our vehicle. But I'm like, if you saw his vehicle, it was an SUV, and it ended up half the size.
Yeah.
Because it was so bad. But our car, because it absorbed a lot of the shock, but it didn't look like it barely looked like anything happened to it. They were trying to say that it wasn't as bad as it was. And it's funny because in the moment I was trying to be strong for the kids, and I was, it just happened with me and the kids. My husband wasn't there, and I didn't feel anything.
Yeah.
And
You're scared, you're
Exactly.
pissed, you're like, what the?
I was
My kids are in the
so
car.
That make it
Yeah.
5 p.m. Who gets
On a Tuesday. You would be surprised. You would be surprised.
When I first started, I actually represented a client, and it was for her. I was handling her custody matter, and she was pulled over, and it was like her 4th or 5th DUI.
Oh my God.
And when I looked at the information, I was like, oh my God, this is like the route that I would take to pick up my kids from school. And it was like right smack in the middle of the afternoon. And I thought in that moment, like, I just don't feel very good about representing somebody that, like, it could have been me. You could have killed somebody I know. And luckily, she was able to get it together.
Good.
And she's in a better place now. But in that moment, I was like, 4, lady, but 4? Like, how are we even going to justify this?
Yeah.
And it was,
I don't know how, like, yeah, and I don't know how that works in, like, family law court and, like, custody, but I'm like, that's dangerous. Like, imagine your kid was in the back. I don't know.
oh, yeah. No, we've had that too.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it's really difficult to say, whether or not that this is a bad person because they were involved in a DUI, or whether this is an actual problem, because we've had parents that'll get dinged on DUIs, and they're like, it was a moment. I just went to go have brunch, and it's out of character. And then you have somebody else where it's like, dude, you finally got caught for drinking literally every day of your life.
Yeah. So crazy.
Last question. What's something you wish more people understood about your line of work?
No. That I don't know every aspect of the law. Like, can someone
Yes.
send this to my dad? Because my dad's like always like, ¿Cómo? Like, what do you mean you don't know? You don't know why my friend got deported? What, Dad? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know anything about when his workers' comp check is supposed to come in the mail? What did you go to law school for? Just like his way of thinking, like, okay, well, you need to learn it. I'm like, no, Dad.
They just generalize law.
You know what I tell people? It's like, you don't go to a podiatrist for your headaches, okay? Like,
Same
you don't treat doctors the same, usually, hopefully. But same with lawyers. It's like, I really like to be the best at one area of law, know it forwards and backwards.
Completely agree.
And then if you have questions, I can refer you to the right person. Like, oh, I know a work comp lawyer, or I know a family law attorney that can answer that. I'm not going to answer that because I don't have the answer.
Yes. Yeah. And that's hard for me to tell somebody.
And it's hard for them to understand sometimes. And that's why I always say, I'm like, you wouldn't go, I always say, you don't go to a podiatrist for your headaches.
Yeah. No, and then they'll call and they're like, what do you mean you don't do a trust or a will? This is a family thing. And I'm like, well, that's not family law. Well, why not? It has to do with my family. I'm like, okay. Oh, okay. Or it's like, well, why can't you help me with my domestic violence case, my criminal case, if you're helping me in my domestic violence case here. It's like, well, it's completely separate. And yeah, people don't understand that. And there are a lot of attorneys that do all kinds of different laws. And
Kudos to them, but I also feel like you might not be doing the best service.
I think
honestly.
so.
Yeah.
Because a lot of, for me, I think family law has so much
It's so
gray
intricate.
area that you need to know it in order to be able to really, really help a parent or really defend a parent. And if you don't, you're going to go in there and say the wrong thing.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
the law says one thing, and then you're in front of a judge that thinks differently, and your fact pattern is a little bit on the verge of being like yes or no. Like there's a way that you can sway that. But I think other attorneys not knowing that, they're not going to get it.
Absolutely.
Now, very quickly, you guys just have to answer quickly, okay? Courtroom or negotiation table?
Oh, courtroom, hands down.
Negotiation table. I love me a good negotiation.
What's your go-to de-stress activity? We already know your answer.
Pilates.
If you know Carina,
Actually, I love to run. I don't think I post enough
Oh,
about
really?
running. I
Oh.
haven't been
I'm trying
running
to change
lately.
my mindset about it. I always used to say, I'm like, I hate running. Now I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna go on a run. I don't hate running. I just need to like do it more.
So what do you do to de-stress?
I love Bunda, which is like weight training and Stairmaster. But I love concerts. For me, a good concert,
Concerts. Something about your hands in the air,
you
the
know,
music.
dancing.
Yeah, I agree.
the and then one Spanish saying that gets you through tough day.
Ooh. Quoting my dad on this one, no pasa nada. Latino dads love to say that. You know, it's like, ya valió verga, pero no pasa nada.
Yeah, they do. Your car's broken down, your leg won't walk, pero no pasa nada.
Yeah.
I was telling her that my daughter, she tries to speak Spanish as much as she can, and my husband doesn't speak Spanish, so it gets a little complicated in our household. But my mom says this all the time, so she picked up on it. She's like, "Suerte de perro," and I'm just like, dude, but my dog is so lucky. Like he has cucumber water. Like I want, like if that's the kind of luck we're talking about, I'm down. So yeah, I think that would probably be the one that I would say, just because I'm trying to manifest a good life, and my dog has the good life.
I had an uncle, so he was like, my uncle told me one time, he was like, I'd love to come back as your dog. Because like I spoil the hell out of my dogs too.
Or the other Mexican saying that I love is when they say no pues sí.
Cool.
Is it no sí or yes? Like when they say no pues sí.
I think that's also a Californian thing. We're like, yeah, no, or no, yeah.
I'm like, wait, what? What was it?
That's so true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing.
Yes, we love chatting with you. We love getting to know about the Latina. And if you guys ever need anything, just feel free to reach out to Esther when it comes to employment, worker injury, anything. Actually, if you need anything other than family law, she'll probably be able
And if you call me for family law, I'm gonna refer you over here.
to be able to also guide you in the right direction. Well, thank you so much for being on here.
Thanks for having.
And we didn't even get to talk a lot about like your family life and
No.
stuff like that. We wanted to, so we'll leave that for another day.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you guys. Bye.